I wanted to speak about being open to the gifts of disillusionment and dissolution, and surrender, into that without collapsing, but really, surrender into that with an open heart and an open mind as much as we can. And in the Theravada teachings, we have the concept of nibbida, which is, sometimes translated as disenchantment, meaning, waking up from a dream, or, looking behind the curtain of a magician and seeing, what is really happening there. And it's considered a positive thing, even, in our culture, generally, disenchantment isn't really seen as a positive thing. And the literal translation of the word nibbida is simply not finding. We are looking into the phenomena and we are not finding what we are expecting to find. And that's considered, the fruit of insight. And that translates then into a letting go of something rather than amassing more. Wisdom isn't a body of knowledge, according to the Buddha's teaching, but wisdom is a deep understanding of the way things are and a peeling away of more and more of the filters, the cognitive and emotional filters, which keep us trapped in assumptions and expectations and patterns. So it's like a letting go of ballast if we want to arrive at a bigger and wider and deeper perspective. Like when you are flying with a balloon, we have to, put down the sandbags, and then the balloon is slowly, coming off the ground and then going higher and higher, and have a bigger and bigger perspective on the context, on the landscape. And through that bigger perspective, certain insights happen, and then letting go is the fruit of this bigger seeing. And that's exactly, what we want to cultivate in any practice. Any spiritual practice cultivates that. And in our Wednesday meetings in particular, we want to look at the current worldview, how that keeps us trapped, and how stepping into a deeper and wider perspective could actually serve us, to see new connections. And from this seeing of new connections, we could respond to what's needed in a much more healthy and connected way. So it's like, if you've gone shopping with a new pair of shoes and then they are really very tight, and then when you come home in the evening, you finally take off the tight shoe and this, God, what a mess. I mean, that piece of equipment, which isn't really serving us, but it's just like it's a prison, really. And, currently this worldview of mastery over the planet and mastery over others is in the process of dissolving. The mastery of a certain worldview, in particular, the Western capitalist worldview, is starting to dissolve because it's reaching its limits and it's fraying at the edges, and the fraying is becoming more and more visible. And we start to really wake up to the fact that even a whole civilization, even a whole worldview, a whole culture is impermanent. And that's what we are dedicating those Wednesday contemplations to recognizing that. And maybe now we can shift over to the meditation part. So, take an inner screenshot of your present moment experience, your body. How does that feel right now? Is there stress right now? Your emotional state right now? And your mind? What are you bringing to this moment? Just being aware of that. We don't need to change it in any way, just knowing as much as you can what you are bringing. You don't have to work hard. Just being here and being interested. That is enough. So, when I'm saying the current worldview, the current narrative about who and what we are is dissolving, and our civilization shows more and more fraying at the edges, there is a kind of unraveling in the process. How does that resonate in your body when you hear that? Just trying to sense that. By feeling your body from inside, and also at the same time feeling the weight of the body on the cushion and on the chair. So how does the whole equipment of your being, which is not just a mind, but a body, a very complex biocomputer, which has been developed by evolution over billions of years. So how does that resonate? And where do you sense that resonance? Maybe it's many different places. Some are tight and some are moving. Just go to that part, which is moving. That which is in the flow, that which is open to life as is. And do not try to distill meaning from the experience, but rather sense it fully. So that's the sense making and not meaning making. This is what we need to learn, to step out from the thinking mind, to always try to make meaning in order to, feel kind of safe or something. And just because this body is a sensing apparatus, we could say, or a sensing tool, or a sensing being. And we've gotten so addicted, to one of those six senses. We have gotten so addicted to the mind sense, thinking it can provide all answers. Because that was our worldview. And now we are seeing, no, it's very different. The mind is just one of the six senses. It isn't superior. Just in the same way as Homo sapiens isn't superior to other species. We are not special. We are just one of many relatives. living here, living as and in planet Earth. So sense making over meaning making. Can you tolerate that uncertainty and allowing the process to unfold? The breathing into the chaos, of the sensing, the bewilderment, and just simply allow it to be there. That's what we need to train. We always, have been avoiding that uncertainty, that chaotic feeling by just splitting the energy all up into the thinking mind and then, trying to come up with some kind of a story. We need to wean ourselves off from that. As we find ourselves on the threshold of something new which wants to emerge. And we need to take care, not to suffocate it with projections and assumptions. That's really the training, by going back to the sensing again and again. And our habit patterns, our traumatic habit patterns want to go back to the thinking, and no, just come back into the body. Gently, with a lot of kindness, as a service, to our own spiritual growth and also for all sentient beings. And being okay, that we cannot know everything, despite all of our sciences and technology and, even flying to the moon and doing really amazing things, but we cannot know everything. We are not a special species. And there is biointelligence in the living planet itself, that is much older than mind can fathom. This is really the central insight of our times. The bowing out of the seat of mastery and saying, oh, I'm sorry, it was a good idea, but no. There's a different way of operating, which starts to come online for those who are ready for it. And it's so much, in sync with the Buddha's teaching, with the first noble truth, understanding that there is suffering, that there is discomfort, and it's nobody's fault. And learning to, be with that, to understand it, to really stand under it fully, a direct experience of it, rather than trying to make meaning, make a story around it and discharge the energy into thinking. There's a different way of operating, rather than trying to make meaning out of everything, there's a direct experience, and from that, the next step shows itself. It's a different way of operating, which in some ways, is closer to the operating of some of the truly wise indigenous ways, leading with vision rather than meaning. And sensing into that intelligence with our whole body and its senses, without the need, to arrive at an intellectual interpretation of that experience. It's just simply not needed. But what's needed is a clearing away of the clutter in order to make ourselves available to that biointelligence, which wants to be lived and really allowing that to inform us, to go into our form and be received beyond the intellect. That's our training. It has always been the training, but at this time, we find a different language, and also we can see how the phenomenal world out there is really reflecting it back in no little manner, in a very strong way, by all of the things, which have been set in motion. So practicing sensefulness rather than meaningfulness. So being in contact with the data flow through the senses, everything what is happening if you're going inside the body. Being in contact with that and having patience with it. But really being open to that which wants to be understood by really standing close to it without collapsing. And allowing that biointelligence to work through us in profound ways, through our particular individual gifts and medicines which we bring to the world. We all have different gifts and different medicines to offer. And allowing the biointelligence to work through us in this way. Breathing into the heart area, that which connects us so deeply. And, just really sensing the quality of openness and allowing that, to really be felt, and then with the out breath, relaxing into the space, which doesn't end at the walls of the room or at the skin of our bodies or anywhere for that matter. Just deeply sensing into that non-separation and the boundarylessness of all of this. Allowing that to inform us, to permeate our form, so that we might, be able to come back to it when we are triggered. That's why we are practicing. Also, so that we can bring this into the world through our lives, through our relationships, so with the in-breath, allowing that quality of openness. And it might not be necessarily comfortable, there might be a sense of trepidation behind it, uncertainty. Bit of a, contracting away from it. Just letting it be okay. That's our service. Comfort is not our birthright. Our birthright is being here and taking part in the process, but sometimes it's comfortable and sometimes it is not. This is just how life is. This should not be a main criteria for saying yes or no. So with the in-breath, just really deeply sensing presence. With the out-breath, relaxing into the spaciousness. And if you notice, your mind wanders off into wanting to have more meat, then just gently bring it back. It's a graduated training. Just start again. What would you like your remaining breath to move in the planet metabolism, in the planet process? This living, intelligent earth you are part of. What would you like to do with this remaining breath you have got? Allow that question to ripple through your being and relax into it. Is there a sense of responsibility and accountability, which comes up if you are posing that question? What arises from the heart as you allow that question to ripple through your being? And for me, currently spending time with 46 children, that's a really powerful question. And there's definitely a sense of responsibility and accountability which arises. Not in the sense of having to, rescue the whole world or anything of that manner, but just, doing my piece, acknowledging my gifts, making them available in service of this biointelligence, which I cannot fully fathom, but I can be in service of it by clearing away the clutter, clearing away the old narratives, and making myself available to be moved in this way. And then trusting that new capacities will come online. If I'm willing to train myself to step out of the addiction to the thinking mind into the direct experience, the direct sensing of life itself as it manifests in my body and in my environment, in my relationships. There is something which is emerging, and I think everyone who is here knows that consciously or unconsciously. There is no going back. being okay with where we are, no pushing or rushing, or that doesn't really work. But that full surrender without collapsing. And, interest. Interest is enough. It's one of the 7 factors of awakening. The second one, Dhamma Vichaya. Taking an interest in how the Dhamma works, how nature works. And by that interest, how we work. Because we are also nature. Choosing accountability as we sit in front of this enormous mess, which our species has created out of immaturity, out of delusion and greed and ill will, wanting to protect ourselves against nature. All of these assumptions, just really taking that in and choosing, collective healing over collective self-destruction. That is the difference we can make. We don't know how it's going to work out. Of course not. How could we, with our little minds, understand the evolutionary intelligence operating? But we can make ourselves available to be part of the solution rather than, losing ourselves in negativity and polarization. That's the choice we can make. And then we let go and we see what comes. What is our part to play? What's our gifts and medicines to bring? It is an adventure, going into a completely uncharted territory at this time in history of our species, becoming more self-aware. It's actually beautiful. But the medicine, is bitter, but it does work. Just allowing all of that, seeing how the body responds when it hears these words and sensing deeply into it as it metabolizes what is kicked off, in this context. And by breathing into it, we can help the process to stay moving, keep moving. Life is all about movement. Data flow. And, for the next few minutes, we can just really, be in direct contact with the flow of change, as it manifests in our bodies, and giving it the space, not pinning anything down. Usually we try to pin down the pleasant, the comfortable, want more of that, and push away the uncomfortable, don't want that. And seeing, how both have a gift, both have information which needs to be integrated. The old world, endless comfort, is just never gonna come true, because this is not how life is. Life isn't about pleasant feeling. Life is about much more than that. Pleasant feeling is a part of it, for sure, and it can be and should be enjoyed, but it's not why we live. We're clearing out the clutter, composting our egos in the service of that biointelligence, which is a living organism, a living metabolism we call Earth, planet Earth, of which we are part of. We are not separate from it. We are deeply interwoven. We are a part, a secretion, product of it. And we can return home to it if we choose that. And we don't need to wait for anybody else. We can just do it. It's going to be contagious anyway. That, that deep recognition of who we really are is going to be contagious if we live from that place. That can be our, to be a contagious one, and bringing that into our environment, our families, our workplace, in a gentle or wild or crazy or whatever way our style is, we do it that way. And it all works together. We have different gifts. And we can, learn to trust that intelligence which moves through everything which is alive on a big, big level and microscopic level and everything in between. That which puts the stars in motion and that which, vibrates in your little finger, that's what we are trying to become more conscious of. That's our evolutionary threshold on which we are standing now. And there's no way back to how it was before. Before COVID came. And since then, so much has been emerging already. There can be more. It's a training. A training which the Buddha, besides many other images, he gave the image of the ocean floor, which is gradually sloping down, and then drops off suddenly, and then sloping down into the depths of reality. By simply, starting to walk and not stopping. That's how it works. And on the way, we learn everything we need to learn. And at this point, it's about choosing accountability, choosing collective healing over collective self-destruction. That can be our contribution. And then, this huge, enormous mess we have created can be a chance for waking up rather than a curse. It can be, it's the only way, otherwise it wouldn't have happened. It's the way how we gonna move into more maturity. It's kind of a huge cosmic drama, and we are part of it. So coming back, to the weight of the body on the cushion or on the chair, feeling, our roots going into the planet, all of the generations which have come before us. Some call it our dinosaur tail, which takes us back into the planet and really deeply rooted. There's a process of life and information flow constantly operating, and we can open ourselves to that. The magic medicine, the intention, the seed crystal, which starts to open up a different way of being with all of this. Not being a victim, but being a team player. And seeing what is our contribution. What is our medicine? What is our gift?